All right. Hi, everyone. We're here for being a different possibility for families. And I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo. Thanks so much for sending in so many great questions. I'm going to try to get through all of them today. Basically, I invited y'all to send me questions about anything related to children and families and learning and communication. So you could really take advantage of the fact that I've been doing this work professionally for about 15 years and personally for as long as I was alive, maybe millennia. So, and I think that's the case for many of us for some of these interesting situations that are going on with our families and the families we work with. I just want to acknowledge the diversity of experiences in the people who sent in questions. We have people who, and I'm going to make sure my phone is off because everyone's been messaging. We have people who work with families directly as therapists, as nurses, as doctors. Also people who did, there's a term that was sent in called a constellator. And so I'm very curious about that. And I'd like to know more about that. That person is not on here live right now, but maybe they'll let me know about it in a message later. I think I know what it is. I think I've done some of that work, but they might call it something different in the United States because this person is in Europe. So I'm very excited about that. And I love that for some people also, they sent in questions because they were looking to have ideas for future family planning. They don't have their own kids right now, but they're think that they might in the future, and they wanted to kind of get some ideas about that. In the chat, we have that maybe the constellator deals with psychogenealogy. There's so many awesome terminologies for all the different ways we can play with families and add in tools. So I'm like, yay, that sounds cool. Just psychogenealogy, like, yeah, that reads too. So I love it. I professionally, I'm a speech-language pathologist and a learning behavioral specialist and a feeding therapist. And then I do family and child coaching, which involves a lot of direct coaching with the entirety of a family using traditional evidence-based tools and also energetic techniques. Really looking at the whole family, everybody in the family, so that they can all contribute to each other and all thrive together instead of seeming like, oh, you can only address some needs of some of the people and then the other ones go to the wayside. A lot of times the parents, a lot of times the caregivers aren't including their bodies and their self-care as they're dealing with and managing all of the demands of the household. And so I provide tools and accountability to the entire family so that they can thrive, they can have more joy, more ease, and also so that they can get out of judgment of themselves as a family, depending on whatever's going on in their family, and all of the individuals in that family. Because nothing kills more than judgment. Oh my goodness. And it applies with everything, including families. So a lot of the techniques I'm going to be using, it's from all these years of experience that I've had with families. I've worked with families in schools, public schools, private schools, in daycares, in early childhood centers, in hospitals, in clinics, in their homes directly for 6-7 years, like going into all the homes all over the city of Chicago and getting to be on the floor or at the dining room table with the families. So a lot of fun times. Love it, love it, love it. And so I'm really hoping that this is beneficial to y'all and we get to have some more fun with this topic. And it doesn't have to be what Dr. Dane here says, which family, Family, is effed up and mainly interested in limiting you, is that acronym. It doesn't have to be that way. And we can choose how to actually not be at the effect of our families and how we can actually choose chosen families and create them if we would like as well, including how we choose to be or not be with some of the people in our family, including ourselves. So let's get to it. So many great questions. So one of the things that seemed to be a running theme in a lot of the questions asked, I'm going to go for the big bang for your buck question at the beginning, is if you're in your own family or be it your past too, because a lot of people are mentioning, you know, okay, I'm an adult now, even though I may or may not feel like it. And I'm not sure I want to feel like an adult, because sometimes adulting can feel really heavy and just overwhelming. So there's some of you that are mentioning stuff from your childhoods that are impacting how you interact with your families now, and maybe the families you're planning in the future. And one thing over and over again I kept seeing in the messages you sent was, well, how do you get beyond the parents' limitations, where they're obviously putting on the brakes or working within these boxes, where they're really stressed, or maybe they didn't have great models of themselves, and so they're not really sure how to deal with whatever is coming up with the children and the families right now. How do you get a way around that and out-create it? And so these are some of the nurses that sent in questions, the medical staff, the therapists, people that are going into the homes and working with families in different ways. Thank you for your questions. So a couple things with that. There's a ton of things you can do, but the big one that I love to look at is actually having the parents look at the words that they're using for themselves, 1, around the kids, 2, and about the kids and the family. That's like a combo 3, right? So it's really looking at the words that are being around. And a lot of parents are like, oh, I don't say this stuff in front of them. I was like, are you sure? You sure you're not slipping up every once in a while? Because I've been here for like 15 minutes and I heard this, this, and this. And they're like, they don't even realize. Because they're so in the go, go, go. A lot of us are in adrenaline overload. They're going from one appointment to the other, the pickup, drop off, that we're not really monitoring our words, and definitely not our thoughts. And so even the thoughts, and then sometimes we do the think alouds, where we're thinking something and we start saying it out loud, and the kids are around. They're like, did mom just realize that she just said this and this? Did dad just get the implications of what he just said? Okay, you know, and so I start pointing that out to the parents in a loving but firm way. Like, hey, you just said this. Did you hear yourself? And how about this? Did you hear that? And then how about that? So you start pointing out the words. And then the next thing is asking questions, true questions, open-ended questions without any judgment of point of view about the words, the actions, and the points of views that are in what they're saying. So one example, I had a parent that was basically telling his son, as a dad and a mom both, that in different ways were saying to the son that they couldn't wear pink. It was not okay for the boy to wear pink. And if he wore pink, it was horrible for the family. So it was like this whole pressure, not just for him to choose this in one way for himself, but it was about the shame that it would bring to the family and all these different things. And I was telling the parents, I said, okay, well, 1, it's a color. So what's that? Like, you know, you're making this color really significant. What's really behind it? And after some digging and things, we realized that the dad had been told his entire childhood that it wasn't okay for him to not just wear pink. It was like anything that wasn't a neutral color was unacceptable. Even like blue. It was like black and gray, maybe some white, some brown. If you had green that kind of leaned toward the brown, maybe that was safe, but it was like there was very limited. And it was always presented as, this is what these are the colors that men wear, and this is what is appropriate. And there was a lot of the shame and cultural expectations with that as well, which is a whole Pandora's box that I'm not going to quite open up right now, even though I love talking about multicultural considerations. But as we were talking about this, the dad realized that he was passing on what the parents pushed him to do, even though it didn't really work for him. So when you started pointing out all the pressure he felt to be a man in a very particular, very narrow way, the dad kind of felt like, if I let this go and don't pass this on to my son, I actually get to have some healing, some more space for me too. And it was like everyone in the household, just in this conversation, started going, oh, because it takes so much energy to keep people like in line in this very particular way. And then I was saying, what are the other stuff underneath this? And it was about concerns of safety. Like they were worried that their son was going to get bullied. They were going to get beat up. And I was like, if you didn't assume that the bullying and the beating up and all that stuff would happen, would you actually mind him wearing pink? And they were like, no, not really. And I was like, well, what if you didn't assume that all these horrible things would happen? What if it could actually be really fun? And what if you all could have more fun with pink and any other color in the household? And he was like, and I gave all these examples of different boys and girls that did different gender playing and exploration. And just as soon as they got to do it, it wasn't a big deal for them. And some of them didn't choose to do it anymore. It's just like, oh, I did it. It's done. Cool. Next. Like it wasn't like as significant to them. But when they were told not to do it, man, did they want it more. And so I point out to the parents a lot of the don't do it. No, don't go there. No, don't see that person. Would that work for you? I'm like, does that work for you when you're told don't go there, don't see that person, don't think about this? Then what do you think of? You think about the thing that they told you not to think about. You put that picture of that word in their head when you're like, don't think of the elephant. And then you go in your head, you're like, that's already there. So also removing the don't and the no as much as possible. I literally don't ever tell a child no, even the little kids, unless it's immediate danger situation. Like they're about to get hit by a car or a dog's about to bite them and they reach toward the dog. Otherwise, I don't tell a kid no or don't do that, because I know most of my kids, they'll be like, oh, really? No, really? You mean that thing that right there that looks really even more tempting, more shiny and sparkly now because you put that sheen of it's off limits to it? So really looking at that. And so pointing out to parents or any adult, I do this with teachers as well, because I do a lot of staff trainings and consultations in different school districts. And I tell the teachers, well, it's interesting that you're doing something that you're expecting to work for your students that wouldn't work for most adults. And I just wait. So what's something that you could change that would work for the kids and for the adults? Like it's looking at the awareness of everybody of what's really going to work and being willing to change it, even though maybe it's easier, faster to do this thing that you've been doing like as an automatic pilot all the time, but really consciously choosing to pivot and change your actions so that the actions match your awareness of what's going to work. So review, point out the words, all those different words that they're using, and then ask questions about what the message that they're sending that might not be their intended message with those words. Another example, gosh, I was telling, I have a lot of parents that come to me because one of my specialties is autism and ADD, ADHD. And the parents will say these things like, oh my gosh, he has too much energy. Oh my gosh, he's all over the place. Oh, and I've even had parents will say, oh, he's never going to get a job if he can't even pay attention like that. It's like, he's listening, she's listening. And so you're actually looking at all the things that are making it wrong. All this energy is like, how many people make, like the energy industry is billions of dollars. Energy drinks, coffee, tea, all these things. And he doesn't need any of that because he has so much energy. Like people would beg for that. That is a gift. Now, what tools and strategies can we give to your child so that he can reroute that energy in a way that's going to be effective for him, so that they can demonstrate what they know in school, so that they can find jobs that would work with that, the people that want to be around it. But if you're already judging them and concluding that they won't be able to get a job, they're never going to have a relationship. Who wants to be around all of that? I mean, I can't tell you how many examples of these different conclusions that parents don't even realize they have. And I was like, I could name almost all of my friends have ADD, autism, some combination, OCD for sure, because I have all of that. And man, do I get to use that to my advantage. Okay, I wouldn't be able to do all the things that I do in my business if I didn't have too much energy, as they say. So let's look at that. So start with that and actually I even have for some of my parents, like write down, like I'll just write down, these are all the things you said today. And let's start with 5 of them. and then look at the implications of that. It's like, okay, what are something that we can say instead? How can we pivot from it? Because some people would like visual support. I love visual support to things. And then I'm like, I can really actually say, I have a column. These are the things that I used to say. And now these are the things that I'm going to replace it with. These are the actions I used to take. These are the actions that I'm going to replace it with. Because just like the kids, instead of saying, no, you can't do that, you have to replace it with, what can they do? Don't touch that. You know, we can put our hands in our lap. That's the replacement behavior. Oh, I don't like that person that you're hanging out with. You can't hang out with them. You know, are there any other hobbies or activities that we can do so we can meet some new friends? Want to make sure that you're having fun in a lot of different ways. Not don't go see that person. Expose them to new people, and then maybe naturally they will choose those people. Okay. I love this question that was sent in from someone in the medical field who I'm guessing from the question works with a lot of medically fragile children. And, you know, thank you for what you do. I've worked with a lot of medically fragile children. A lot of the children that I worked with as a feeding therapist in early intervention, which here in the United States, that refers to services in homes and daycares in their natural environment, in a child's natural environment, where it's birth to 3 years old. And so it's a certain separate certification for many states in the United States. And this person sent in a question wondering how to open up possibilities when the parents are really concerned about how fragile the child is. And then so they're so focused on the fragility and, you know, worrying about them dying that they're not really opening up possibilities for the child's future. This is a big one. This is kind of similar to the last one, and yet I'm going to add a little bit more to this, okay? So definitely use what I mentioned about the words and the implications of what messages they're sending to the child, because even children that are nonverbal, children that are infants, they are still listening. They are still picking up on the vibrations of what we're saying, the judgments of them, the conclusions about what's possible and not possible for their lives. And it's not to be like positive in a sense that it's like you're not going to acknowledge your concerns, but it's also asking the child questions like, oh wow, you made it this far, you've chosen to keep living here, thank you so much for being here. I say to the infants when I meet them and I'm hugging them and I grab them, and the parents, you know, they let me grab them, I get permission, I promise. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so powerful, instead of, oh, you're so cute and so pretty. I say that too for the cute and pretty ones. But I also am acknowledging, wow, you are here. You made it, because not all the babies do. And the fact that they're still here means that they're still choosing to be here. And yay, thank you for however long you're here. You know, really being willing to enjoy the giggles, enjoy every little bits that they show you when they grab your finger, where they turn over, those little steps. That's part of what I love about working with the kids that I work with and the families I work with. I mentioned in a video earlier this week that there's so much that other families kind of take for granted, and my families don't. They don't. And so oh wow, they just said that sound and we didn't think they'd ever talk. Oh, they just made a sentence together and it's maybe at 7 years old when usually it's 2 or 3. That's a big deal. And we're going to throw a freaking party. And so really practicing just being so grateful for all the little steps and not assuming that they're going to be there. And then for those that have the medically fragile kids, I mean, I have a lot of personal experience with that. Both my siblings at birth were considered medically fragile in different ways. You know, my sister has a congenital disorder, but she was born with spina bifida. She had 8 surgeries the first couple of years of her life, every type of therapy. And, you know, we lived in the hospital. My brother had diaphragmatic hernia, which he had a hole in his diaphragm. And all the organs below the diaphragm were up in his chest, not allowing space for his lungs to grow. He had 3 surgeries the first couple of years of his life. He's hard of hearing as well, possibly due from the procedures that saved his life. We're not sure. For us, it doesn't matter because we are so grateful that he outcreated that and he's living and thriving now. And one of the things that I love when I'm with parents that have kids that are medically fragile is talking about the other kids I've met, the other kids I know, including my siblings, that they started off and everyone was like, they're going to die. They're going to die any minute. And they're projecting this at these little babies, these little bodies, these big beings, little bodies. And I was like, but they are big beings. They are immense. They are here. They are choosing to be here. And so what if we could actually inspire and talk to them about other little bodies that had big beings connected with them that were able to choose something immense and great as well. And then let them know that that's possible and then let them choose. You know, my mom did not buy into what all the doctors and therapists and teachers said to her about my siblings, which allowed her to hold them accountable in a way that other people weren't. She was like, when you're 18, either you're getting a job or you're going to college, but you are out of the house. And she told us that for all of us, no matter what was going on with us, whatever diagnosis, she had it. She was telling us that she was going to hold the bar there, and she did. All of us are independent. So I wonder what's something that you could be. It might not be the 18 and you're out, but what's the thing that maybe other people are like, oh, that's not possible, that you could start telling the children in your life now? And for this person who sent in the question, you can start setting the rhythm for the parents to start saying to their kids and start not just dreaming, but like lighting the fire under them. So if they really do want to live, that fire gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, and it's so funny that I'm using the word fire because a lot of my team was talking about fire earlier today, the fire and the dragons. And, you know, it could be as simple as having like dragons on the wall in the nursery, right? You know, who does that? I haven't seen that. I would have loved to have dragons on the wall as a kid. I'm just saying. So have them really light up and then burn away all of this judgment and limitation that people are projecting at them and expecting of them that's in front, and just like clear the way for them to actually create their lives more actively. So this is through imagery, this is through words, this is through the energy that we're being with their bodies. I also, with the medically fragile kids, anytime I'm near them, and definitely when I'm holding them and have any physical contact with them, I'm also flowing different energies to them. And I ask their body, which is the ones that they would like in that moment. And I have it go from behind me through my body and to their body, and then through their body as well. So they are often more animated with me. They're more present. They make faster progress because I'm inviting not just my body, but all the energy of the universe to contribute to them showing up more here with their body. So that's another thing that I definitely would recommend. Thank you for that question. That was awesome. And thank you again for what you're doing. Gosh, it's a team effort, man. It's such a team effort. Cool. Okay, I'm looking at my other notes here as well. Okay, oh yes. Okay, so I love this. There was a comment in the what would you like to add to your family today group. It's a Facebook group. It's private. It's right now it's just for Anglophones, but you can also use the translation of Facebook or of your Google Translate, whatever you'd like, and you feel free to participate and jump in there. The group, somebody in the group was talking about how they would love to connect with their children more, and I find that parents that have anything more than one child, really, I get this question all the time of, oh my gosh, how do I manage all of this? So depending on the family, I ask a lot of questions about the family. I'm just going to give you a couple examples, and then you can let me know which ones work for you, or maybe you need some other additional tips and tools. But I am a big proponent of visual organizers. And so I would have in our family, we would have family meetings like once a month just to check in, so everybody could announce what was going on in their lives, so everyone felt heard and acknowledged. Oh, I have a parent-teacher conference. Oh, I got this A on my report card. Oh, I was on this. I got a really great game this past weekend, and I'm really happy about that for baseball or whatever it is. So people get to have this acknowledgement time and attention that way, and we really do make sure everybody gets to talk. I really recommend family meetings. Oh, let's plan for the vacation. What would everybody like? Well, what's that going to be? And what would we like to do in that vacation? Those kinds of things. And then for connecting, you know, one of the people in the group was saying that they live very far away from any place that they'd really like to take their kids to, like at least 45 minutes before they can reach anything. And again, I'm going to point out, well, what does that point of view create? If you are telling your kids we can only have fun if we go out to a specific kind of location, then they start relying on making location significant and to their happiness, instead of them being able to find connection with themselves, with other people, with their bodies, no matter where they are. So that's one thing. Two, there's a lot of creative ways to connect with your kids at home as well. The kids just want your personal time. My mom had 2 kids with special needs, as they call it. I put the quotes for that. I looked at it as special abilities, and then she considered me one of them as well. And so that's 3. And we each had a different color on the calendar. And it could be a simple, like, monthly, you know, wall calendar, right? This is the May one. Huh? And we would write in our special colored marker, because I would have, let's say, green marker, and my brother would have blue, and my sister would have orange. And we would write, okay, it's Siris date, or my brother Shaniel, okay, Shaniel time. And it would be the time and the person. And then as we got closer, it'd be the activity. It could be as simple as I get to watch a movie and cuddle with mom just by myself. I wish you were me, right? You wish you were me right now, but you're not. So it could be the arts and crafts. Like my sister loves arts and things like that. And it could be, you know, just coloring next to each other while we're talking, or painting, doing some clay stuff, right? For me, it would just be kind of like maybe cooking together or sharing a meal together, things like that. And the other kids might be fed, but then I would have my own little off to the side date with my parents or my mom, you know, over here. The kids don't care, especially if you don't make the distance or location or anything else a big deal. They're like, oh, I get to be the special one today. And you rotate all these things. And it could be like once a month. It could be once every 2 weeks, depending on the kids and what else is going on in your life. If you're studying, if you have, you know, 2-3 jobs, then you change the frequency, and then you always you can check in and change the frequency at any time, but the kids can see it visually. So another one I have is, you know, I really prefer the desktop size calendars, the really, really big ones, because then there's no denying it, and you can have even multiple things per day in that one. And let's be honest, for most families, there's not just one thing happening a day. That little square might not be enough. It certainly isn't enough for me, and I don't even have all these kids to deal with, right? So, you know, the big ones, you could also have it where it's colorful, where it's like, oh, the orange is this person and the green is this person. You can even color code it related to activities, like, oh, the sports events when we have to pick up, and there's a game where it's away, that's going to be in blue. You know, change it up. You can write it in there. These are the numbers. So this is a one that was just made, and we put the names on the top, and then we put the different info in here, and then you can take it off and put it back on. So there's a lot of different ways, and just that alone can be a family project that brings us together, that builds that connection. Oh my gosh, can we decorate it this way? Can we have a family banner? You want a family motto? What's the motto going to be? And talking about what that is, that can really bring that connection and communication for you to learn about stuff. The other one I love about that is we would put all the chores in there, which is something else that the other person that posted in our private group mentioned. Everybody, we had the list of the chores, and it would just rotate. There was no, oh, I don't know how do you clean the bathroom, or how are you going to learn how if you don't practice doing it? So everyone would rotate the laundry, the dishes, even the cooking. After a certain age, I was cooking a lot. You know, so hi everyone. I just wanted to add on this last bit of information that seemed to get cut off when our Wi-Fi was being a little bit weird. So someone in the chat asked if it was ever too late if you have children that are 15 and 18. And I don't really make age relevant at all. And this is from someone that has 2 master's degrees in areas where it's all about, oh, developmental milestones, and you reach a certain stage depending on your age. And those are great guidelines. And then I just use them as truly a guide, because as soon as you make it rigid, it actually stops you from having so much more that is possible. So it's really about choice and what someone is willing and able to do. And so with any situation, no matter if it's, at-risk youth, or if it's teenagers, or if it's adults, if it's dating, if it's business, all of it, I'm like, what's actually possible? What would each person like? And then is each person willing and capable of doing to have what they would like? And for each person, it's going to be really different. So I start from what everybody would like, and then what everyone's strengths are, and then going from there. So I really don't make age relevant. I find that many people use age to justify doing something or not doing something, instead of like, well, what would I really like? And what do I have to do to like have that and get that and create that as my life, my living, my reality? So I'm very pragmatic about it. And I invite each of you to not really use age, including the children's and the families, anybody in the families that you're working with, and not using anyone's age to dictate anything. Oh, well, they're too old for this, or they're too young for this, or it's too late for them, or it's too early to do this. All these different things. It's like, let's see, what's actually possible with this person, and then what's actually possible with this family. Okay, so thanks so much. Thank you for your patience with all of the tech issues. We're going to have another Being a Different Possibility call May 29th. It's a Thursday at 2:30 Eastern, that's New York time, and 8:30 p.m. Paris, Italy. We'll have a translation available as well. And if you would like, I invite anyone that has a family that would like tools for their family, and those who work with families, to schedule a free 45-minute consultation with me. And I'll include the link to that with this video. Okay? Thanks, and have a wonderful day, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye-bye.